Hello dear students, this is Raksha Shetty and you're watching Edubassa, your homely learning channel. So in this video we are going to learn about a 10th biology chapter called as life processes. So particularly in this video we are going to learn about nutrition. So without further ado, let's get into the video. How do we know that something is alive? So in general, when the living organisms are moving, we consider that particular organism is alive. For example, if they are running or they are breathing or they are chewing or they are shouting, right? Some sort of movement is taking place in all of these cases. So during all of these cases, we consider that particular organism is alive. So when we are asleep, again, you might think, right, when you are sleeping there is no some sort of movement that is taking place in the body. We are not running, right, but yet we are breathing. That is also again a movement, right? So we can consider the living beings are alive when that particular organism is asleep as well, and there are some sort of activity that is taking place inside the body of the organism as well. So we consider the organism as alive. What about plants then? What about plants? Plants will not be moving. It is not running. It is not breathing. It is not eating the food like wise we do. It is not shouting when we beat them. Hardly, right? Do it? No. Then how can we consider that it is alive? Movement, ma'am. How movement? It is not moving, right? There is some sort of movement that is taking place even if they are not moving like us in general. The growth is there, isn't it? Yes. So we can consider that particular plant is alive. They're green in color, we can consider that it is alive. Yes, there are some of the plants which are not green in color and they do not undergo photosynthesis and yet they are alive. Yes, there is exception, but they are alive. Okay, but the growth is there in all of those organisms, right? So we can consider that particular plants is again, a living creature and that is alive too. Is the visible movements enough? No, not always. See, some animals breathe. As I told you earlier, when we are sleeping, we are not breathing heavily. So we cannot consider that, we are not alive during that particular situation of time, right? There are some of the animals which will breathe and it cannot be seen through our naked eyes, but they are still considered as alive. So the same way there are the molecular movement that is taking place in the body as well, so which again shows the indicators of the life. For example, if the movement, the molecules are basically the moving inside our body. So during the repairing of the tissues or during the oxygen intake or during the digestion of the food or whatsoever, okay, the molecular movement will be taking place inside our body, which consider that we are alive. Yes. Why is movement necessary for life? Why is movement necessary? See, biologists say that the molecular movement is very essential. It is obvious, right? Molecular movement is very much essential in order to repair whatever the tissues inside your body or during the excretion process, during, the digestion, the intake of oxygen. During all of this process, the molecular movement is necessary. Right? What about viruses? See, these viruses, they do not undergo any sort of molecular movement until they infect a host. So when they do not infect a host, when they are out of the host, they do not undergo any of the molecular movement. Okay, so they are like a non-living creature outside the host. But as soon as they enter the host, what happens? They show the movements, they replicate, they show the movements, right? So this viruses is a different thing. So it's a controversial, still controversial, that whether they are alive or not, because outside the host body it is not alive, but as soon as they enter the host body, they are alive. Yes. Why do living beings need the movements? Why the movements are important? Why do they need movements? See, living organisms are the well-organized structures that See, the living organism is made up of, organ system, right? Several organ systems are present. Organ systems in the sense, the respiratory system, the circulatory system, the transportation system, excretion system, various organ systems are present. in the living beings, right? So this organ system is made up of the tissue, the tissues, and the tissues are made up of cells again are made up of the smaller components, right? So yes, so whenever some of the changes that is taking place in that of the environment, like some of the climatic condition or because of some of the accidents, so the some damages will be taking place to our body. So in order to repair that damage, that damage has to be repaired, right? So the repairing is necessary. So in order to repair this, the molecular movement is necessary. By the molecular movement, the repairing of the tissues, the cells will be taking place, so that can keep the structure in a stable place. Getting my point? Yes. Now let us come to the main topic. What do you mean by the term life processes? So life process is nothing but it is the activities or some of the processes that is taking place in the body of the living organism. Why? Obviously to keep the organism, to maintain the organism, to keep the organism alive. Okay, to keep the organism alive. So these are the life processes, that must be taken place inside our body, right? So yes, so for example, even if you are sitting, even if you are reading, this life process will keep going on. Okay, if it will keep going on, you will not realize it, but it will keep going on. Okay, why energy is needed? Why the energy is needed? See, where do we get the energy from in the first place? So we get the energy from the food, right? So from the food we get the energy. See, the food will be broken down, and then by the process of respiration, you might have learned in your previous chapters, by the process of respiration, the food will be broken down and produces what? The energy. Now why this energy is essential? This energy is essential to maintain life. Why? To maintain life. So for the repairing process, to maintain the body functions, to undergo the life process, to any of the activities that is taking place. For example, if you are just reading also, you need energy, right? Even if you are sleeping also, you need energy. For all of the functions, the energy is must, right? So that energy is gotten from where? From that of the food, which is basically the outside source. So this process of taking the food is called as what? We call it as nutrition. So let us learn more about food and energy. See, the life on earth is basically the carbon based. Okay, carbon is important. So where do we get the carbon based food from? That of the plants. Okay, plants undergo photosynthesis process, and they prepare a carbon based food called as carbohydrate, right? So yes, this carbohydrate will be there, so it has to be taken up inside our body, so which is the complex food particle, which has to be broken down into the simple food particle by the process of digestion inside our body, right? Again, we are going to learn in detail about all of those stuffs, but in general, I'm just making the points clear that the life on earth is basically carbon based, and we intake what? For that, the plants, either we intake it directly or indirectly. For example, we will be directly eating the plants, the vegetarian foods, the vegetables will be feeding on, so we will be directly intaking the plants. Sometimes we'll be intaking indirectly, in the sense, for example, if we are eating the chicken will be eating the plants, right? So that's how we will be directly or indirectly feeding upon the plants, because life on earth is basically the carbon based. The carbohydrates are very much important. Okay, you eat rice, so rice is a the carbohydrate based food basically. Okay, yes. So the different organisms use different nutritional processes to intake these plants to undergo the digestion process, and that food has to be broken down into the simple forms. Okay, then after that, all the broken down food will be reached to that of the different cells of the body, and after it reaches to the different cells of the body, it undergoes respiration. See, respiration is different, breathing is different. Breathing is taking in oxygen and leaving out carbon dioxide, whereas respiration is, as I told you, whatever the food that is been broken down will be moved to that of the different parts of the cells, because all of the cells needs the food. for the purpose of energy. Okay, so this food is broken down to produce what? The energy. Along with that of the carbon dioxide, that carbon dioxide will be released out of the body because it is not essential for our body. So this food is broken down for the production of energy. That's how we get energy from that of the food. I hope it is clear. What about single-celled organism then? See, single-celled organism, for example, amoeba. Okay, for example, amoeba or paramecium or the yeast. So these are single-celled organism, and they do not need any of the special organs. Okay, they do not need any special organs. So whatever the food intake, for example, in the human beings, there is separate systems to undergo different processes. For example, the circulation is done by the heart, and the respiration is done by that of the lungs, and the digestion is done by that of the alimentary canal. So there are several organs will be performing the different functions, whereas here in the single celled organism there is no specialized organisms to perform different functions. The intake of food, the exchange of the gases, the removal of the wastes, all this is occurring with the simple diffusion process through the surface. For example, if this is amoeba, so the respiration takes place from here like this. Intake of the oxygen will be taking place, the exhaling of the carbon dioxide will be taking place, the intake of the food will be taking place like this, the diffusion will be taking place like this. So there is no specialized organs to perform different functions. Clear? Yes. What about multicellular organisms then? So multicellular organisms are basically we human beings. Okay, so we have several cells, so we have several tissues, we have several organs to perform different functions. Okay, since we are the larger body and we are of the complex design, so the simple diffusion is not enough. So and also our cells is not directly in contact with that of the environment, right? So that's why we need specialized organs and the specialized tissues in order to perform the different functions, be it nutrition, be it respiration, be it excretion. Clear? Yes. Next is transportation in that of the organism. I told you already, the food we will be taking in, basically which type of food we will be taking in? Yes, the carbon based food that we'll be taking in. That carbon based food we will be get from where? We'll be getting from that of the plants. This carbon based food, the plants has to be broken down into the simple particles with the help of some system. What is that system? We'll be learning in detail, but generally I'm telling you. So this food particles will be broken down with the help of the alimentary canal, which is present in our body. Okay, which starts from the mouth and it ends till that of the anus. So from there what happens, the food will be broken down, and the broken down food will reach up to the small intestine. What about then? Whether it is reaching to that of the small intestine, that much is enough? No, the food has to reach to the the digested food has to reach to the different parts of the body, different cells it has to reach, because all of the cells needs the energy, right? So the food has to reach to that of the different types of the body. When how it is reached to the different parts of the body, that is by the transport system. Again, this food has to be broken down, right? So the food has to be broken down. For that, oxygen is necessary. Basically in the human beings, in the animals, the oxygen is necessary, right? Instead of the yeast cell, the oxygen is necessary in order to break down the food, in order to undergo the respiration process. So the oxygen will be taking in, and it will reach to that of the lungs. And what about after that? It has to reach to the different cells in order to break down this food which has reached to the different cells, right? So that is again done by the transportation system. Reaching this oxygen to different cells, reaching this food to that of the different cells is done by the transportation system. Understood? I hope it is clear. For example, the circulatory system basically pumps the blood. With the help of the blood which is passed through that of the blood vessels, all of this food will be passed to that of the different parts of the body. And again, what the oxygen is again from the lungs through the circulatory system is again transported to the different parts of the body for the production of energy, basically, right? Yes. Next is about the excretion. Now, as I told you, the different parts of the body, the food is reaching, there's some of the chemical reactions is taking place, obviously, to produce the energy. And along with that, some of the waste products will also be produced. And this waste products, as we say, waste, it is not important for our body and it is toxic, it is harmful for our body. And it has to be eventually removed out. So that is done by the process of excretion, which is done by the excretory system. And there's one carbon dioxide that also has to be removed out, okay, that is produced during the respiration process, which is not important for our body. We eventually remove it out, right? So that is again by the excretion. Clear? How do living things get the food? How do the living things get the food? See, all the organisms need energy, and we get the energy from where? From that of the food. Okay, so the food, I told you, carbon rich food is important. What is that? Plants. So how do the plants prepare food then? Yes, we are getting food from that of the plants. We animals, the human beings, will be getting the food from that of the plants. What about plants then? From where do they get the food from? They prepare their own food using simple inorganic substances such as carbon dioxide and water. Okay, plants prepare their own food and then we eat that food basically. Okay, so what happens is nothing but these plants, by the process of which one? By the process of photosynthesis, they prepare their own food. Okay, what happens is nothing but I will explain you that later. Basically, with the help of the carbon dioxide as well as water, they will be preparing their own food, which is basically the glucose or the carbohydrate. Okay, what about the other organisms other than plants? They use these plants complex substances and they feed on these plants and they get the energy from it. So basically the organisms are classified into two types. One is autotrophs, one more is heterotrophs. Autotrophs, they prepare their own food. Heterotrophs, they depend on the other organisms for their food. Now tell me, which are autotrophs? Plants. Very good. What about heterotrophs? Yes, human beings, animals, we are heterotrophs. We depend on the other organisms for our food. Yes, exactly. So let us learn in detail about the autotrophic nutrition. See, talking about the autotrophic nutrition, as I told you, autotrophic nutrition are exhibited by that of the green plants. So only green plants can exhibit autotrophic nutrition. I will tell you why. Okay, and some of the bacteria again, for example, cyanobacteria. So that again exhibits the autotrophic nutrition. So autotrophic nutrition is done by a process of photosynthesis. They prepare their own food with the help of the photosynthesis process. What do? See, just consider this is the leaf of the plant. In the leaf there will be what? Chloroplast cells will be present. What will be present? Chloroplast cells will be present. So in this chloroplast cells, the chlorophyll pigment will be present. What will be present? Chlorophyll pigment will be present. Now what happens? Sunlight will be there. In the presence of sunlight, so the sunlight will fall upon this leaf. This sunlight, the light energy, the solar energy, will be taken up by the chlorophyll, which is present in that of the chloroplast, and then what happens? That light energy, solar energy, is converted into which energy? The chemical energy. Okay, chemical energy. And using that chemical energy, this water, where the water is gotten from? Obviously through the root, through the which xylem, the water will be reaching to that of these parts, which is basically to prepare the food. The water will be reaching, right? Now this water again will be broken down into the hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen and oxygen will be broken down into the hydrogen as well as oxygen. So this oxygen will be liberated out. Okay, oxygen will be liberated out. That is the product that is being formed during the photosynthesis process. And this hydrogen along with this carbon dioxide that is taken up by the plant during the photosynthesis process, which is exhaled by the human beings. So along with this carbon dioxide and hydrogen and some of the electrons, they will reduce into what? Reduce into glucose or the carbohydrate. Clear? It will reduce into glucose or the carbohydrate. So yes, this is how the plants prepare their own food. And this glucose or the carbohydrate that is being produced is and half step during daytime as well as the night time. So what exactly happens is nothing but, See, what exactly happens is nothing but, see, during the daytime, the desert plants tend to save the water, and it cannot use much amount of the water, so it tends to close the stomata during the daytime, so much amount of the water loss is not taking place and the transpiration is not taking place, obviously. So now what happens is nothing but, during the daytime it closes the stomata, but photosynthesis must be taken place. So that is the reason during the night time the stomata is opened and the carbon dioxide is taken up during that of the night time, and after taking up that carbon dioxide they will form an intermediate product, the middle product called as malic acid. Okay, malic acid is formed. Now what happens during the daytime, as usual, the chlorophyll pigment will take up the sunlight. Okay, and by using that, it's the same thing, the chlorophyll pigment will absorb the sunlight, and that light energy, solar energy, is converted into that of the chemical energy, and by using that chemical energy this malic acid is converted into that of the carbohydrates, which is again the food. Clear? So this is how the photosynthesis is going to take place in that of the desert plants, because obvious reasons the desert plants cannot open the stomata during the daytime, because it tend to lose the water and the transpiration will be taking place, which will not help them to survive, obviously. So that is the reason it is going to open their stomata during the daytime, night time. Next is about the structure of the leaf. So cross section of the leaf, when you take the cross section of the leaf and keep it under the microscope, you will observe some of the parts. So this is basically the parts. So first, a waxy cuticle layer will be present above it for the protection, obviously, and there is upper epidermis will be present. Next you can see the mesophyll cells over here. So in between the mesophylls the chloroplast will be present, which gives the green color to that of the plant. So the chloroplast, which includes chlorophyll pigment, obviously, and the air spaces will be present in between the spongy mesophyll, you can see over here. So there is lower epidermis. In between the lower epidermis there is stomata present, which again has a guard cell, which you will learn further about the structure of stomata. So this is about the cross section of the leaf. Yes. Next we will learn about the to test whether the starch is present in that of the leaf or not. How to test the presence of starch, to show that the carbohydrates will be stored in the form of starch during the photosynthesis process, right? To show that, there is one experiment. So what we are going to do is nothing but, I am going to take one variegated plant. Variegated plant in the sense what? For example, you might have seen money plant, crotons and all. So these are the variegated plants. So I'm going to take a variegated plant, potted plant, and I'm going to keep it in the dark room for 3 days, so all the starch gets used up. I'm doing this just to make sure that otherwise, because in general otherwise the starch is present generally in any of the plant. So for this experiment, in order to prove the presence of the starch, I have to use up the starch, right? So that is the reason I'm going to use up the starch by keeping it in the dark room. So when it is in the dark room, what happens? So we tend to use the starch, because obviously in the dark room it needs the starch to survive, right? So it will use up the starch. Then I'm going to keep it in the sunlight. Obviously when I'm going to keep it in the sunlight, the photosynthesis will be taking place and the production of the starch will be taking place. Carbohydrates will be produced. That carbohydrates will be stored in that in the form of the starch. Now what I'm going to do, after I keep it for the 6 hours, I will pluck the leaf and I will trace the green area. So if this is the leaf and there will be the variegated region like this, right? There is the green region will be present here, the non-green regions will be present here. So what I'm going to do is nothing but, I am going to trace wherever the green region is present in that of the paper. I will take one paper and wherever the green region is present, I will just trace like this. Okay. Now what I will do, now I will take that leaf and I will boil that particular leaf in that of the water. I am doing this because, so obviously in the leaf what is present, the chloroplast cells will be present, in which the chlorophyll pigment is present, right? I want to take up that chlorophyll pigment. That is the reason I am going to boil it, so that the plast cells will tear up, so that easily the chlorophyll will come out of the chloroplast cells. That is the reason I'm going to keep it in the water to boil, and after it gets boiled I'm going to keep it in the alcohol, so that whatever the chlorophyll is present will move to that of the alcohol. When I dip it in the alcohol, it will move to that of the alcohol, and the alcohol becomes green in color. Now I will wash the leaf and I will dip that particular leaf in the iodine solution. When the iodine, it's going to mix it up with that of the starch, it gives a dark blue color, okay, dark blue black color, just like your ink pen, blue ink pen, the same way it is going to give the color, okay, which shows that the starch is present. So now tell me, what happens if I take this? According to you, what happens if I take this leaf and put it in the iodine solution? Tell me. So wherever the starch is present, it has to give the dark blue color, isn't it? So where the starch is present, obviously the starch is present wherever the photosynthesis has been taken place. So the photosynthesis takes place only when the chlorophyll pigment is present. So the green pigment is necessary, right, in order to undergo the photosynthesis process. So obviously only in the green region what will be present, the starch is present, according to our conclusion, according to whatever we have learnt until now. According to us, wherever the green pigment is present, there the starch the starch obviously has been stored, and wherever the starch is present, it has to give the dark blue color. That is our observation. So what happens is the same observation is gotten, okay. The green plants will be turning the blue black color. Wherever the starch is present, it will turn the blue black color, and the non-green parts will not undergo any sort of changes. So from this, what you can understand, during the photosynthesis the starch has been formed, and in order to form the starch, obviously in order to undergo the photosynthesis, the green part is necessary, the chlorophyll is important. Yes. So this is the picture. Basically, see, the decolorized leaf is being taken. Decolorized leaf in the sense after taking up the chlorophyll from that of the leaf, and when we perform the iodine test, wherever the green part is present, the dark blue color will be observed, which shows that the starch is present, and the starch is present only wherever the chlorophyll is present, green pigment is present. Yes. Next is about the stomata. Let us learn about the stomata. Stomata is nothing but the tiny pores will be present on that of the leaf, okay. In the surface of the leaf, the tiny pores will present, which will basically help, just like the nostrils are present in our nose to take up the oxygen, leave out carbon dioxide. The same way, the tiny pores will present in that of the leaf also to take up the oxygen and the leave out carbon dioxide during the respiration, to take up carbon dioxide and leave out oxygen during the photosynthesis process. So that it mainly helps for the exchange of the gases, okay. So it is also present in the stems as well as roots. So there is the guard cells present, okay, which is a bean shaped structure. The guard cells will be present in that of the stomata, so which helps for the opening as well as closing of stomata. So whenever it is required, the stomata opens, whenever it is not required, it closes. So that is done by basically the guard cell. How exactly it does is nothing but, so you can see the structure of the stomata, important, okay, important. So what happens, this is the guard cell basically, okay, this is the guard cell of the stomata. So if this is the guard cell, when water enters into the guard cell, it will swell. This guard cells will swell and it will open, okay. So this is how the stomatal pore is opened. So when the water gets out of this cell, what happens, this guard cells will shrink and hence it will close, okay. So this is how the opening and the closing of the stomata will be taking place with the help of the guard cells. How exactly? By the entering of the water as well as the exiting of the water. Yes. Next is about, there's one more activity which proves that carbon dioxide is essential for the photosynthesis process. So what we are going to do is nothing but, we are going to take 2 healthy potted plant, and again we are going to keep it in the dark room for about 3 days, again to use up the starch, to destarch it, because we have to prove this experiment, right? That is the reason. Now what I am going to do is nothing but, after taking that potted plant, I am going to keep each of the potted plant in that of the bell jar, okay. I am going to keep it in the bell jar. So I will show you. So I'm going to keep a 2 potted plant in that of the bell jar. This is the bell jar. I'll fix Vaseline over here so that no air escapes inside. Vaseline make it airtight. Now in one of the china dish I'll be keeping potassium hydroxide. Okay, so potassium hydroxide has the ability to absorb the carbon dioxide. So I will be keeping in one of the bell jar, but not here. Only in one of the bell jar I'm going to keep potassium hydroxide so that it absorbs whatever the carbon dioxide that is present here. I've already made it airtight, so no more oxygen, the carbon dioxide can escape it into the bell jar. Now here no potassium hydroxide is there. Obviously the carbon dioxide is present here. Here the carbon dioxide is not present. Correct. Now what I'm going to do, after some time, after exactly after about 2 hours, I'm going to keep it in the sunlight. Sunlight will be there here. Okay, I'm going to keep it in the sunlight. After 2 hours I will take the bell jar, I will take the leaf and perform the starch experiment the same way I performed earlier. So what happens, starch, when it gets reacted with that of the iodine, okay, the iodine I'm going to dip this particular leaf into that of the iodine solution. So what happens when I'm going to dip the the leaf which contains the starch, obviously in that of the iodine solution, it should give which color? Dark blue color, right? Dark blue color. Now what happens here, I have kept potassium hydroxide, carbon dioxide is not present. If the carbon dioxide is not present, obviously the photosynthesis will not be taking place. If the photosynthesis is not taking place, no starch is there, no carbohydrate is there. Clear. Here carbon dioxide is present, sunlight is present, chlorophyll pigment is present, water is present. So all of the raw materials are present, right, for the photosynthesis, and obviously the photosynthesis is going to take place. And when you perform the iodine test, obviously it is going to give which color? Dark color, because all of the raw materials are present. Hence the photosynthesis has been taken place, and hence the carbohydrate is being produced, and that carbohydrate is stored in the form of starch, right? Yes, I hope this is clear, right? So next let us learn about the heterotrophic nutrition. Until now you learnt about the autotrophic nutrition. Next you are going to learn about the heterotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophic nutrition, as we have told, heterotrophic in the sense we are the examples for it. We do not prepare our own food, we feed on the plants, we depend on the plants for the food, so we are heterotrophic. Depending on the other organisms for the food, we are heterotrophs. So there are different types of heterotrophic nutrition, which is saprophytic nutrition, holozoic nutrition, and parasitic nutrition. We'll learn one by one. So first is about the saprophytic nutrition. So there are some organisms, what they do is nothing but, so they feed on the dead and decayed matter. So the dead and decayed matter will be present. So outside the body, they will break down the food particle, then they will engulf the nutrition inside their body. Then they will absorb the food. First they will digest the food outside the body, then they will engulf that digested food. So such kind of example is saprophytic, which is the fungi as well as the mushrooms are the example of it. And next is about the holozoic. We human beings are the examples. We human beings, animals are the examples. So what do? We eat the food, we engulf the food inside our body, then we break down the food, right? We bite, then we swallow it, and again that food will be broken down in the stomach through that of the small intestine, pancreas, liver, all that is going to take place. So we are going to digest the food inside the body. So we are the example of holozoic. Again there is amoeba is also undergoes holozoic nutrition. Paramecium also undergoes holozoic nutrition. Okay, undergoes holozoic nutrition. Yes. So next is about the parasitic. So what do you mean by parasitic? So parasitic is nothing but they derive the nutrients without killing. For example, lice, which is basically present in many of the people's hair. So this lice will be feeding on the blood, right? They'll be drinking the blood through that of the they will be deriving the nutrients from the body of the organism without killing it. Do they kill? No. This Cascata is a plant, so that is not a photosynthetic plant. It is a parasitic plant. Basically, it is not green in color, so it will grow and climb up the other photosynthetic plant, and in the sense the green plants, and they derive the nutrients from it. Okay, so such kind of the plants, I mean, it will not kill that. So such kind of the nutrition is called as parasitic nutrition. Okay, you can see over here the mushroom which undergoes which type of nutrition? Saprotrophic nutrition. What about this? This is cascata. Okay, cascata undergoes which type of nutrition? Cascata undergoes parasitic nutrition. So you can see yellowish part over here. This is not green in color, so obviously it does not undergo photosynthesis. It cannot prepare their own food. Obviously depend on the other organisms to prepare their own food, obviously with the plants. Okay, the green plants, they will feed on the green, absorb the nutrients from that of the green plants without killing it. So yeah, this is tapeworm. So it will be deriving nutrition from the digestion food that is taking place in the body. So the food will be digested in the intestine, right? From there it will be taking deriving the nutrients. Okay, tapeworm. And this is the lice which is present in that of the hair, you might have seen. So they will take up the food from the human body without killing the organism. Yes. So next is about the amoeba. As I told you, amoeba undergoes which type of nutrition? Holozoic nutrition. It undergoes holozoic nutrition. Okay, yes. So we have already discussed that the amoeba is a unicellular organism and it undergoes the holozoic nutrition. So they have a structure called as pseudopodia. So sometimes what happens is nothing but these amoeba, usually by the diffusion process itself, it will undergo the digestion and all of that. Sometimes what happens is nothing but sometimes they has to they has to develop the pseudopodia, which is nothing but the false feet, and they have to surround the food and engulf the food. Okay, so the process will be taking place, all this process, just like human beings, they will be undergoing the process. First is ingestion in the sense the food particles will be taken up by that of the body with the help of this, into that of the body with the help of the pseudopodia. And after the food particle enters, it will enter into that of the food vacuole, which is present inside the amoeba, which I'll show you. And the enzymes will be present in that of the food vacuole, which will break down the food. Okay, digestion in the sense breaking down of the food. After breaking down, that food will absorb to that of the cytoplasm. It will enter into that of the cytoplasm, and then assimilation in the sense that digested food is used up for the growth of the amoeba, for the purpose of the energy of the amoeba, for all that process will be taking place. And that undigested food has to be eventually removed out of the body, that is by the process of egestion. So undigested food, which is not important for our for the amoeba's body, will be removed out by the process of egestion, which is nothing but the excretion process. Yes, that is about amoeba. I'll show you with the diagram. So you can see over here, this is amoeba. Okay, you can see a finger like projection over here. So this is basically that is basically pseudopodia, or we call it as pseudopodium or false feet. So if the food is present over here, it will encircle with that of the food, and it will take the food inside of the body, and it will reach to that of the food vacuole. The food vacuole is present over here. So in the food vacuole it will reach, the enzymes will be present, it will digest the food, break down the food particle, and now the digested food will be absorbed where? To that of the cytoplasm region present over here. So it will be absorbed here, and after that what happens? This absorbed food will undergo the assimilation in the sense it will be used up by that of the body of the plant, body of the amoeba, for the purpose of energy, for the purpose of growth of it and all. And now the undigested food is not essential for amoeba's body, has to be eventually removed out, that is removed out of the body by the simple diffusion process, by the egestion, right? Yes, that's about amoeba. So I'm sorry, I have written wrong here. This is the digestion in the paramecium. Okay, so this is the digestion in the paramecium. So next is about the digestion in the paramecium. So it is again a unicellular organism, and it also undergoes the same process just like the amoeba. So holozoic nutrition will be taking place. So in the paramecium, so paramecium looks like this, somewhat like this. Okay, somewhat like this, and they will be having hair-like structure over the body, and it is called as cilia. You can see over here. So it will be having a hair-like structure all over the body called as cilia. So that will bring the food to the oral groove. Okay, so that will bring the food to that of the oral groove. So that will sweep the food, the bacteria, algae. So that is the food of the paramecium, and it will sweep the food where to that of the oral groove. You can see over here the gullet, oral groove, and the food will be entering here. And what happens after entering the food, this is the food vacuole. Here the digestion of the food, the breaking down of the food will be taking place, the digestion of the food will be taking place. Now this digested food will undergo absorption. It will move to that of the cell, cytoplasm, and then undergoes assimilation, same like that of the amoeba. It is used up by this paramecium for the growth of the paramecium, as well as for the purpose of energy. Now the undigested food will be present, right? That is not required for the body of the paramecium, so it has to be removed out. How it is removed out? It will reach to that of the anal pore, and it is removed out of the body by the process of egestion. So that is going to take place. Okay, same thing just like that of the the amoeba. Okay, same thing. Yes, that's about it. So this is about this video. So in the next video we'll be learning about how the nutrition that is taking place in the human beings, how exactly you'll be learning about the alimentary canal, you'll be learning about the digestion. So today in this video we will be stopping it here. So we will revise it quickly. So the revision part is, the molecular movement is also important. So generally we say that the living organisms undergo the movement, means they are alive. What do you mean by life process? Life process is nothing but some of the activities that is taking place in the body of the organism to keep the organism alive. We call it as life process. And when we are sitting also, the energy is needed. Where do you get the energy from? From the food. So we take in the carbon based food. So the carbon based food will be gotten from where? From that of the plants. And how we how the plants will prepare the food? Yes, we get the energy, the food from that of the plants, but the plants will feed, they undergo photosynthesis process and prepare the food. How exactly they are going to undergo the photosynthesis process is nothing but by the process of photosynthesis. What they do, they take up carbon dioxide, and obviously carbon dioxide that is exhaled by that of the human beings, water from that of the roots, and with the help of the sunlight as well as the chlorophyll. So the sunlight will be absorbed by the chlorophyll pigment. Chlorophyll pigment is nothing but the green pigment that is present in that of the plants, and then it will convert this solar energy into the chemical energy, and it will break down the water into hydrogen and oxygen, and this oxygen will be removed out because that is not important during the photosynthesis process. And this hydrogen along with that of the electrons will reduce this carbon dioxide to that of the glucose. That is the photosynthesis process that is taking place. In the case of the desert plants, obviously in order to save the water, what do? They open up the stomata during the night time, and during the night time, since they are opening the stomata, what is going to take place? They will take up the carbon dioxide and the intermediate malic acid will be formed. And then what happens during the daytime? By using the sunlight, the chlorophyll will absorb the light energy and convert into chemical energy and convert this malic acid into carbohydrates. Same thing will be taking place. So half will be taking place during the daytime, half will be taking place during the night time. So in the other plants, everything will be taking place at a time, but in the case of the desert plants, it is taking place half and half. Then we learnt about the leaf structure. There is waxy cuticle present over here, the upper epidermis present, the mesophyll cells is present, in between there is air spaces, so there is chloroplast cells present. At the below there is a lower epidermis and the stomata will be present. So next we also learned about the activity which shows the presence of starch, isn't it? So we will be taking the leaf and we will be keeping it in the dark room for 3 days so that the starch is used up. Then we will be keeping it in the sunlight for 6 hours. Then we will pluck the leaf and we will trace the leaf and we will be boiling it in the water, and then we'll be keeping it in that of the alcohol. So all of the chlorophyll pigment will be gotten into that of the alcohol. Then we'll somewhat wash it and dip it in the iodine solution. So wherever the starch is present, it gives the dark blue color. So we also learnt about stomata. Stomata is the tiny pores which is present on surface of the leaf, which helps for the exchange of the gases. So the opening and the closing of the stomata is done by the kidney shaped structure or the bean shaped structure that is present, called as guard cells. So this is the structure. So water will enter, it will swell and it will open. Water will exit out, it will shrink and it will close. And we also learnt about about how the carbon dioxide is also essential for the photosynthesis process. We are going to take the 2 potted plant, and we are going to keep the bell jar over it. We are going to keep a potassium hydroxide in one of the potted plants, so that to take up carbon dioxide whatever is present here. So here the carbon dioxide is not present, here the carbon dioxide is present, and here since the carbon dioxide alone is not present, still what when we pluck the plant and test for the presence of the starch, we cannot basically get the dark blue color, because obviously the carbon dioxide is not present. When the carbon dioxide is not present, the photosynthesis will not be taking place. So here it will give the dark blue color. Obviously all of the raw materials are present. So we learnt about heterotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophic nutrition is nothing but it is basically getting the food from that of the other organisms. So autotrophs are plants, whereas heterotrophs are human beings, animals, including amoeba, paramecium and everything. So yes, there are 3 types: saprotrophic as well as holozoic and parasitic. Saprotrophic in the sense they will break down outside, then they will engulf the food. Here holozoic means they will engulf the food, then they will break down inside the body, and parasitic means without killing they will absorb the food. Okay, so these are some of the examples. We learnt about amoeba. So amoeba will be having the pseudopodia, and with the help of the pseudopodia they will sweep the food inside the body of the amoeba, and in the food vacuole the digestion is taking place. After breaking down whatever the food, that will move to that of the cytoplasm, which is called as absorption, and then that absorbed food is used up by the body of the amoeba for the growth as well as its development, and that is called as assimilation. And whatever the undigested food has to be eventually removed out of the body, and that process is called as egestion. So next we learnt about the paramecium as well. The same thing, the cilia will be present. This cilia will sweep the food to that of the oral groove, and in the after reaching to that of the oral groove is basically a mouth. Okay, and in the food vacuoles the digestion will be taking place. The digested food will be absorbed to that of the cytoplasm, and then assimilation is taking place. Again the same thing as amoeba, it is used up for the different processes that is taking place in that of the body. Now the undigested food has to be removed out of the body, so it moves to that of the anal pore, and then it is removed out. So this is what going to take place. So that's about it, my dear students. So that's it for today. Let's meet again in the next video. Please do not forget to like, share and subscribe. Until then, keep watching, keep learning and enjoy while learning. See you. Bye bye.